Today, leaders of the NATO member states gathered in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, for a two-day summit aimed at agreeing a long-term support plan for Ukraine. I spoke to Ukrainian Parliamentary Advisor Mykola Volkivskyi in Vilnius, who explained the potential impact of this summit.
First of all, we need to be sure that every single country which is a NATO member will vote on favor, will accept this future membership. As we understood that tomorrow I started the main Ukrainian NATO assembly, talks of the leaders on the level of members of the parliament, the government, the big bilateral group between NATO and Ukraine. And we know a lot of topics we'll discuss about the procedure, about how it will going on. We understood really we should first finish the war with Russia. The Russia need to be, it needs to be done. But clearly, during our talks with some MPs from Lithuania, from other countries, they said to us, the day when Ukraine be the NATO membership country, it will be the day war will finish in Ukraine. As right now, the Russian propaganda also uses more narratives about they fear that Ukraine will join because the common border with NATO. They have more kilometers of the border right now with NATO because of the Finland. It's why it will be a symbolic trip right after the NATO summit of Joe Biden. He's supposed to go Helsinki to meet with new NATO membership country with Finland and to show that border with NATO will grow up. I mean, after the Ukraine, we definitely will proceed with this step by step. What will be the written on the final declaration. Erdogan changed his mind. They officially accept yesterday between Sweden, NATO, and Turkey the future participation of Sweden in the alliance. Right now, we have the same idea. The Ukrainian president last week met with Erdogan in Istanbul. We have the powerful cooperation right now with Turkey. And nobody can say right now that Erdogan is pro-Russian leader. He is not more neutral. He supports Ukraine. He have this strategy, and he would love to see the Ukraine as a future NATO membership countries. We're not so maybe optimistic about some votes with Hungary, and especially with Viktor Orban, with Peter too. But because we understood that every country should vote on favor. It's to make the agreement successful.
Since NATO's formation in 1949, the 16 member states have risen to 31. With Sweden expected to become the 32nd member. Ukraine's President Zelenskyy is still campaigning for membership.
We have this statement from Zelenskyy that, is sort of angry at the other NATO countries. And I think it's a mistake in the opposite direction. To me, it would be better, certainly for the United States, to avoid the risk of war with Russia more obviously, as we've been doing, by saying we're not going to do something that we've proven unwilling to do, which is fight for Ukraine. Under no circumstances are we going to fight for Ukraine. So because that risks nuclear war with Russia. So we're not going to pretend that we're going to by putting you in NATO or taking other steps that sort of say we'll use force for you. And that's just, I think, a recognition of the reality that's been made plain by the war. So I think we should take it off the table, NATO off the table entirely for Ukraine, and just tell them what we'll do for them is arm them.
This week, the United States pledged to supply controversial cluster bomb weapons to Ukraine, and France has agreed to supply more long-range weapons. Ukraine is hopeful further support could be agreed, with continued calls for aerial support.
About the F-16, if we're talking about the Patriot, if we're talking about the some tanks, it's right now it's continuous. This kind of work, it still exists. We're receiving a lot of supply from the NATO membership countries, and from this reason we're doing pretty good job. It's the counter offensive in Ukraine, and the eastern side is continuing. Of course, will be a lot of dialogues about how to continue, how to proceed with this kind of supply for Ukraine.
In terms of Ukraine's future security, having all these weapons and the ability to use them, which is what training is for, would be quite important. I think more important than basically phony security guarantees that aren't actually going to, where your allies aren't really going to show up for you. So I think that's what we should do. And, there could be more formal pledges to do that. But, I think that's really the best option. What we here at my organization have been calling armed neutrality. Some people call it the Israel model. I don't like that very much because I think that's almost getting into a formal kind of, not quite, but almost formal alliance. But, so I think something short of an alliance where we say we'll defend you, but fairly robust military support is what I think Ukraine could get, that everyone, including Russia, would have to take very seriously. Sooner or later, I think not immediately, not close to immediately. I think it's still probably 6 months away at least. They're going to have F-16s, and how useful they'll be, I don't know. It may be that all the training that goes into it and the effort to train on a different kind of aircraft is not really worth it, as opposed to trying to help them just operate the aircraft they have. But anyway, I think maybe it will be discussed to do that faster or find some other way to provide air support.
It's yet to be seen just how far NATO's support package will go, but the unwavering support of the allies is encouraging for Ukraine. Simon Banks, The Sun.